Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Noonan, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Noonan and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm your host, Stephen Noonan.
We're excited today. We have Josh Sepkowitz with us. Josh is the co-founder of FreeRange Concepts. And FreeRange Concepts is an exciting company that has several creative restaurant ideas, and they're a development and management company. And Josh co-founded FreeRange Concepts with his college roommate and best friend. I haven't heard that one yet. From Kyle Noonan. They formed it in 2011, 2012. Their concepts have included Bowl and Barrel, Mutts Canine Cantina, the Rustic, and soon to be coming the General Public. And they're also moving into North Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston this year. Welcome, Josh.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
So we like to start off every show, wisdom of others. We usually ask for a quote. You provided a quote by Calvin Coolidge.
Got to be the shortest quote I've ever seen, by the way.
All right. Well, it'll be shorter than your intro there, Bob.
Oh, well, everything would be.
Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent.
Speaking of derelicts, that's not the quote he gave us.
That is.
You just gave us persistence.
Well, I gave you the name of the quote.
Oh, that's just the name. That
was just the name of the quote.
The one word. I was like, persistence. I was like, this is awesome.
I'm simple, but not that simple.
Apparently I am.
I've got nothing on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we.
Oh, man.
I'm a Phi Gamma Delta or a Fiji from Southern Methodist University, and in our pledgeship, we learned persistence. Oh. And ever since then, it's stuck with me. It's stuck with Kyle, and I mean, I can quote it, and it's just a great quote.
It's an awesome quote. In fact, I collect them, and I added it to my collection. It's
Great.
A good one. Were you guys fraternity brothers? I know y'all are best friends.
Yeah, so we met our freshman year at SMU. He lived in a different dorm, but we became good friends. And then our second year, we lived in the fraternity house, and we were roommates. And Kyle is an artist by training and by education. He has a degree in sculpting and in painting, and I have a degree in finance.
Nice.
So
what a good combination.
Very
Both
different
friends,
type of skill sets, but we have similar philosophies, and we've been best friends since we were 18, so half our lives now.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
You don't hear that very often.
You don't. You hear don't get into business with your best friend.
Yeah.
You hear that quite frequently.
What is your quote, Stephen?
The only ship that doesn't sail is partnerships.
That's the one.
I'm also in business with my wife, so
so are we. So
both of us.
yeah.
Hey,
That's good, actually.
They either, I find, I mean, obviously work with a lot of business owners. I find that it either works fantastically or it's a nightmare, and there's not a lot of middle ground there.
No, there's not. We found it to be really a strong relationship to have both, at least for me, myself, to have both my best friend and my wife as people that I can go to in business. And
so what role does your wife play in the business?
She is our head of marketing. She handles all, we primarily market through social media. So she, is constantly dealing with Facebook and Instagram and whatever new platforms come up. I'm on Facebook. So
Snapchat.
that's about all that I understand.
Was she in the business before you got married or after?
After. She was a computer engineer. and so she worked for Capgemini, and
Oh,
when
yeah.
I met her, she was overseas consulting, and then we met, and I guess she decided to quit traveling, and once we got to a certain size, she joined us.
That's
Excellent.
awesome.
So she had an IT background, so it made sense for her to help with social media.
Sure. Well, so kind of an unusual story in how you guys got together. Both you had different, skill sets, but it sounds like you guys did other things before you came together to start this. So tell us about how that all happened. And
We did. So Kyle, for beer money, as sophomores, went to work for Papado on Oak Lawn and Lemon as a waiter.
okay,
And then when he graduated, I guess with an art degree, you're not really sure what you're going to do other than sculpt things and hopefully maybe sell them. I don't know. Teach. So he moved his way into management, and in a pretty short period of time, I think he was one of the youngest general managers for the Pappas organization,
Okay.
which is based in Houston. He moved to Chicago to take over as a general manager, and then 6 or 7 years later, he moved back to Dallas. This would have been 6 years ago, about a year before we started our company.
Okay.
And he oversaw Papacitos for all of DFW.
Wow, it's a big job.
So that was a big job. Kyle has a lot of operations experience with a great company. Pappas is amazing. And then Kyle's also very creative, obviously.
Sure.
So I'm not very creative.
Right.
I have an accounting and a finance degree from the Cox School of Business, and then I also have a finance degree from the University of Texas in Austin. And I went straight to Wall Street. I went to Merrill Lynch, was there for a very short period of time. I did not like New York all that well. I'm from Oklahoma City. I like this.
Yeah.
This is my kind of town. And so I moved back and went to work for Southwest Securities in their investment banking group. And so I had always been in a financial role. And then I went to work for a private equity firm for 6 years. And in the downturn, which is actually the second downturn I'd been in, which is why I got out of finance and investments.
It's like oil and gas.
It's like oil and gas. It's boom bust. We focused on real estate, and unfortunately in 2011, I was laid off and didn't really know what I wanted to do. My wife told me, don't go back into finance, or find something that will make you happier, because I don't know. In making investments in things is not like building something. So,
Yeah.
and I had always wanted to build something of my own. And so I had the company that I worked for took great care of me, and so I had a while to decide what I was going to do. So I put a business plan together to open a bowling alley.
Okay.
Brought Kyle in to help me with the food and beverage side of it. He was happy at Pappas.
Right.
But he had sort of that entrepreneurial spirit as well, and we said, let's go for it.
So
and
he
so
quit
he
his job
quit his
and-
job. A really fantastic,
Wow.
Before
job.
or after it opened?
long before.
Wow.
Yeah, Kyle left Pappas, I believe, in August or September of 2011, and we didn't open Bowl and Barrel until December of 2012. So he has 2 kids and a wife, and
And a lot of bravery.
a lot of bravery.
And a lot of support.
And a lot of support. Yeah, I obviously respect my partner.
So when you guys plan to do this and you set it up, you write the business plan, how do you finance something like that?
I was lucky in my experience at the University of Texas, where I met some great both professors that helped me, write business plans, and then I also met some people who helped me to finance my business. But basically, you just go out and you beat the street.
So we're just raising it from friends, family, and
Raising it,
acquaintances.
we've always done what I would call country club raises.
Okay.
So those are from friends, families. We have a lot of doctors, attorneys, dentists, you name it. We really, and we have a couple of large institutional investors now,
So do you?
as we've gotten larger.
I know a lot of restaurants will have a different entity for every location of restaurant instead of one for the whole thing. Do you guys do it one way?
Currently, each individual restaurant is owned by a separate group of investors.
Okay.
Hopefully, at some point, each brand will roll up into a larger holding company, which will, someday allow us to sell it more easily.
Yeah.
So, just out of curiosity, because I've heard both sides of the coin, do you prefer the smaller country club investors or the institutional, or?
You can't answer that.
I know you can't. You can talk about the challenges of both.
Yeah.
I could talk about the challenges of both. My larger institutional investors are mentors of mine.
Okay.
And so they're firm but fair.
Okay.
That is actually having institutional capital behind you makes you feel more at ease. Because if you get into a situation where you need additional capital,
right,
they can be there to help backstop.
Sure.
But at the same time, as you can imagine, with a country club type of raise where you have 20 or 30 different investors,
a lot of people,
you have more control, but you have more people and more personalities that you need to work with on a quarterly kind of basis.
Right. So when you started with Bowl and Barrel, that's a bowling concept, as you mentioned, with food. Then you went into Mutts, which is wildly different. And then you go into Rustic, which is, once again, wildly different. Are you guys just got so much creativity you can't contain yourself, or you just can't figure out what you want to be?
When we started out, we thought we would have one bowling alley and then maybe another bowling alley in another city, and kind of thought that would be the path.
Yeah.
And then a good friend of ours came to us and had the idea to do a dog park and bar. And so Kyle, when he gets things, kind of turning in his mind, creates something really interesting and cool. And so we built a membership-based dog park and bar called Mutts, and it has a great menu as well. And it's really turned out to be a fantastic project.
I was sitting on the patio at Manny's a few years ago.
Sure.
Just after Mutts opened up, and I'm looking at this dog park, and we're just watching the dogs playing and with their owners. Everything's cool, and I look over and I see the building where the food and everything is, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's connected. What in the heck? I couldn't figure out what it was. So we drove over there and we're looking around, and I thought, man, this is the coolest thing.
Sure, people are like that. That's like the greatest idea ever, and we're.
Yeah.
It has its challenges with weather. That's its biggest issue. But we're currently working on a franchise model for Mutts. And then with Rustic, we had some friends that were in the live music business. Pat Green being one of them, who's a partner in the Rustic, as you probably know.
Okay.
And we decided that we'd join forces and kind of put something together. So we came up with the Rustic. And again, what you see in the Rustic and in Mutts and in Bowl and Barrel is really Kyle's creativity as it relates to design, menu. I stay out of that. Most of the partners just stay out of that part of it because he does such a good job.
Well, I mean, he's got a great track record. You can't argue with that.
He's really been amazing.
Well, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to know, with so many brands, how do you create a cohesive team that doesn't sacrifice the individuality of each brand? We'll talk about that in a minute.
Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate one, maybe two leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at TexasTenantRep.com. Again, that's TexasTenantRep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Noonan, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future. Welcome back to The Next Level. We are here with our special guest, Josh Sepkowitz, co-founder of FreeRange Concepts. If you want to learn more about Josh, please visit FreeRangeConcepts.com.
I just realized I didn't give that website address on the front end.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for covering me there. So I'll say it now, FreeRangeConcepts.com.
You're just disappointed because there was no spelling involved.
I know, I screwed up the quote, now I'm screwing up the intro.
We don't have spell check.
That's good.
I'm glad you didn't ask me.
All right, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about is sort of what's unique about Free Range Concepts. And, you guys are food, you're entertainment. That's not always done very well. I guess, you got Dave & Buster's, but what else you got?
I would say our closest competitor, although we look at them as sort of a symbiotic relationship, is Topgolf. We are near a Topgolf in every location, whether it be Dallas, San Antonio, or Houston. Mm-hmm. And when a large group is looking for something to do, one night they'll go to Topgolf, one night they'll go to Bowl and Barrel, and that has worked out really, really well for us. And I think you can see in the success of Topgolf how well people like active entertainment as well as a food and beverage program with exceptional service. And so we didn't necessarily take that model. We created Bowl and Barrel, totally separately, but they've kind of gone down similar paths. Topgolf has grown much faster, but active entertainment really provides us with an edge, something that's fun for groups to go do. So we are in the entertainment and corporate business and corporate group business today, and we're also in the restaurant business. We have great food at all of our locations, but I think having live music, having dogs, having bowling, and people looked at me like I was crazy when I said, let's bring bowling to Dallas. And everyone's like, well, it left for a reason. But it had been successful in other places around the country. We thought it would be here too, especially with, the weather's not great here a lot of the year. So yeah. I think that gives us a huge edge, especially in a city where per capita there's more restaurants in Dallas than any other city in the country.
So was it an evolution of thought, or you knew from day one that we were in entertainment and restaurant?
No, we were in the restaurant business and had active entertainment when we first started. Today, we are in the restaurant and entertainment business. Kyle, coming from a restaurant background, we built a fantastic menu. And I don't know if you've ever been to Bowl and Barrel, but the food is great.
It's fantastic.
Very surprising when you go to a bowling alley and have that great of food.
I was blown away.
So food and beverage and service will always be at the heart of what we do. Mm-hmm. And our current offerings, the general public is just a restaurant and bar. That'll be our first one. But our current offerings all add entertainment to that. I think the entertainment component has taken a life of its own, so both have flourished nicely.
Sure.
And I don't know that we anticipated the entertainment piece being as successful, both from or primarily from a financial perspective.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to ask real quick. So you've taken care of the dog people. Do you plan to take care of the cat people?
I'm not a cat person.
No one will go.
I'm a huge dog person. I'm highly allergic to cats, and cats. The problem is cats just jump and go. They just go do whatever they want to do.
What's crazy though is I had a call from a woman who wanted to open up a cat cafe, and I was like, I don't think I'm your guy. I don't know how I could help with that. That just sounds too weird.
So the question I had, although that one was
That was deep,
that
wasn't
was
it?
super
very
deep.
deep.
I love it. You're in entertainment and restaurant, and I know, entertainment's a lot about creating an experience. So how do you find when you're recruiting and hiring people that can kind of fit that bill versus I'm a server, I'm delivering food?
So I think the first thing that we begin with, and you're right, we look at Bowlem. We look at all of them as experiential.
Okay.
When you walk into the Rustic, it's this large expanse, and you see a large American flag that our designer and I actually put up all the beer cans that glued them all up one night right before we opened that make up that large American flag above the bar. You walk outside and you see a huge live stage. It's not a small stage with a little PA system in the corner. It's an experience. I mean, it is totally experiential. Bowl and Barrel, we could have had different private rooms. We decided not to do that. So when you walked in, you saw the whole expanse, and then you can see into the bar. And I think in terms of hiring, you have to find people that are extremely gregarious and outgoing.
Sure.
And then just have our training program is a long, difficult training program.
Okay.
I would say the same thing about Pappas. I would say the same thing about Uncle Julio's, Hillstone. All of your really good operators have training programs that are intense. And by the end of it, you find out, is this person the kind of person you want representing? And so I think that through the interview process, really getting a sense for their personality, and then seeing if they make it through the training, which you have to have a little bit of will to get through that. And then if you're not the right kind of person, you usually move on.
Are you finding overall right now that the right candidates are being attracted to you, or is it something that you guys have to actively recruit on?
Well, we're always actively recruiting because turnover in the restaurant industry is tough.
Yeah.
I will say that with the tips that our employees make, we don't have a hard time convincing people to give us a try.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would think.
Our employees make a good living.
Well, because you guys have a bit of a different concept with the entertainment and the restaurant together, what have you learned about the customer, their habits, their whatever?
Sure. It's interesting. So when we started Bowl and Barrel, oil and gas was at $110, $120, something like that. Mm-hmm. Today we are, from a revenue and profitability standpoint, far more profitable, and our sales are considerably up at Bowl and Barrel, and that's since it's the longest one. I can speak to the customer there. So regardless of, I think sometimes what's going on in the economy, mm-hmm. people need to have fun, and our experiences that we provide at our units are fun. And so it's just a way it's a good way to get away from life and go just lose yourself on a nice night listening to some country or rock and roll music,
sure,
having a couple of beers, bowling a little bit, having a little nostalgic moment back to, when you were maybe a little younger, when you were in a league like me.
Yeah.
When I was younger. And so I think from the customer standpoint, and I don't know that this is true for all restaurants, because I know restaurants typically are down across the state right now. But for us, we're having a banner year, and I attribute that to the fact that we provide a respite from life.
So let's talk challenges. If you were going to change one thing about the way your business is running right now, what would you change?
Sure. In the previous experiences that I've had professionally, mm-hmm. I've always wanted to have better communication within the company and understanding what the vision is and what's going on. And unfortunately, with going from Kyle and I working in his home office to now we've got 550 employees. We open up we open up a new restaurant next week, and 1 week after that. So, with the growth that we've had, I think one of the biggest struggles we've had is communication from top all the way to bottom. And I really, I told myself if I ever had my own company that communication would be seamless throughout the company. We're not there yet, but it is certainly one of the primary focuses for Kyle and I, as we like to say, move from, let's say right now we're graduating from middle school and going into high school as a company, right? So in high school, hopefully we can improve our communication up and down the ranks, and I think that's one thing that I would like to really improve.
So staying on the topic of employees and such, before the break, I asked the question about, with so many brands, how do you make sure that the individuality of each brand stays consistent and, really in focus? So do you do that through the way you hire your employees? How do you manage that? I guess?
We do that through the way that we hire employees. We have a strong training program where we talk about culture. We also have a system of management in place where Kyle is our chief operating officer and I, drive what the culture is, and we do that through brand managers. So each brand, whether it be the Rustic or Mutts or Bowl and Barrel, has an individual who oversees just that brand. And so we communicate with them on a weekly basis. And then they communicate with their team on a weekly basis, regardless of what city they're in. Usually they travel quite a bit. So in order to get the messaging all the way down to the entry-level employee, we use the management structure that's basically a triangle. But then it also, from the ground up, they do learn sort of what our values are and things like that as they go through training. So we try to hit it from both top and bottom. But with as many employees as we have, it's tough.
I'm sure.
It's challenging, especially because of our different brands. But we try to have a, one kind of overarching culture throughout our company.
So in the last few moments here, you mentioned you're opening a couple new locations. What's opening and when? What people will be looking forward to from you guys next?
So next week we open Bowl and Barrel in Houston.
Congrats.
And thank you, on my birthday on Tuesday.
Sweet.
And then on the 11th we open the general public in Houston as well. And the same, since they're both in City Center, which is great development. And then we are expanding our live music business into San Antonio, Houston, and then in Frisco.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations. It sounds exciting. Thank you to our listeners for being with us today. If you'd like to learn more about Josh's business, please go to FreeRangeConcepts.com. If you'd like to learn more about the show, please go to NextLevelShow.com and find us on all the social media.
Have a great week.
See you next week.
Thanks for being here, Josh.
Yep.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Noonan and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.